Hey guys, so this is my latest build, the 8x8 mirror blocks. And I have to say that this is definitely the nicest puzzle I've built up until this point. The turning is just really, really smooth. And of course, like all my other builds, this was made out of a Shengshao 8x8. I think the mechanism of the Shengshaos, especially on the higher order ones, makes a really stable puzzle. And for a size comparison, here's the actual puzzle that I started with. I just have another one laying around, so it's about, at least on this side, it's about 7 of the layers, but of course, that's different on every side because each side is bumped out of the middle a different amount, different height. And some of the stickers were hand cut and some of them weren't. I used the standard pre-cut sheets for all the centerpieces, and then I hand cut all the edges. Just like this beast of a puzzle. The original, or I should say my original 11x11 mirror blocks. And I think I've actually come a long way since I built this one in terms of finish quality and turning quality and stuff like that. This is still really nice, I think, although if you've probably seen my video on this, this was actually my third build that I've ever done. This was my third puzzle that I modded, and there are some problems with it. I mean, some of the pieces are a little loose, and I've solved this a couple times, so it's, you know, maybe it just needs tensioning a little bit tighter. But some of the pieces are a little bit not 100% uniform, although I think I did a fairly decent job considering how little experience I had going into this project. But when you compare it to this one, everything is just so much cleaner. Like, none of the corners really have any loose pieces, and everything is just much tighter, and the turning quality is considerably smoother on this one. And just to compare the surface quality or the finish quality between these two puzzles, I'll just kind of do this and show you some of the quality of the extensions here. Let's see if I can zoom up a little bit here. So you can see here, well, these are actually pretty smooth. They do have a little bit of sanding lines, sanding marks, and stuff like that. But these were built the exact same way, essentially. I've used different tools. I've since become much more efficient at building these things. But the materials are the same, where I used only epoxy sculpt and plastic sheeting for both of these puzzles. No 3D printing was used at all, and also no spray paint. These finishes were just, that's just the color of the material you see there. And so when you turn the layers a lot, and you solve this thing a lot, you will never have any, you know, black spray paint chips flaking off, which, like on my first two puzzles, I used black spray paint, and especially on my 5x5 axis cube, you generally get this kind of black gunk on your hands after a while, because if you rub against the inner layers, you kind of get this spray paint coming off. But anyway, this is all just ABS plastic sheeting. And when I say plastic sheeting, I mean it's completely solid. None of this is hollow, so it's actually considerably heavy. So again, this was my third ever mod that I did. And then on this one, I'll just turn each layer like this, so I can show you the height difference in the pieces and also the extension quality here. And just get these all lined up. So there on each side, you can see all the height differences in the pieces. And I think that's a good enough angle. You can kind of see inside there. Let's zoom up. So hopefully you can see there on the sides how the surface quality is much smoother than on the 11x11. And that does result in much better turning on this, even though the 11x11 also turns really nice. This is better. And to show you that turning quality, I'll just, as always, do a bunch of different patterns. Let's just start with a full checkerboard. Or I guess this will be a 7x7 checkerboard, obviously, because this is an 8x8. You can't cut down the middle. We will do that 8x8 checker after this, though. You can see that as well. The only thing about this is you got to align it pretty well each time, as to be expected. Just like that, and kind of just jiggle the puzzle like that and get all the layers in alignment. Oops. It turns so well that it's actually, it wants to move on its own there. Okay. So there's a 7x7 checkerboard. I really think the white stickers look a lot better than the kind of silver gray stickers I used on the first one. Just makes it stand out a lot better against the black. So you can really see here how far down in those pieces are. And of course, the same height difference on the opposite side. And then here's your standard even layer checkerboard that you can do, where the top and bottom are not checkered, but everything else is checkered like a standard odd puzzle. I really like on these puzzles where, especially on the layers that are much different in height, where if you look at it straight on, you can't really tell the height difference, and then when you change the angle, all of a sudden you can tell how different it is. I think that's kind of a cool illusion. So that to that, and that's kind of similar on some of these closer faces where when you turn it like this, it almost just looks like the same as a flat face like that, where you turn the flat face, you can't see any change, but here it kind of disguises itself as a flat face until you turn it, and then you see all the kind of shadows of the side pieces there. I think that's kind of a cool effect. So you see, especially here, see all the black, and then it basically all disappears. So here's another cool looking checkerboard pattern. Of course, as you get more and more layers on puzzles like this, you can do a bunch of different checkerboards by, grouping layers together. You can get some pretty interesting shapes. And here you can really see the extension quality. Let me zoom up here. So you can kind of see there, actually, you can almost see the process I've used combining plastic sheeting with epoxy sculpt. So you see that block there and right here, those two, that is the plastic sheeting I'm using, and then everything else is epoxy. And you cannot feel the transition line. You can only kind of see it here in the light. And you can actually see these lines here, those circular lines. So I've never scrambled this thing, and I basically just finished this yesterday. So what will actually happen, because as these pieces travel over each other and kind of break in the puzzle even more, even though it already turns really smooth, they'll kind of polish the other pieces, and they will scratch each other a little bit as they go over. That will actually just smooth out the turning, and as you can probably tell on some puzzles you've used a lot, where they'll have those circular scratch marks tracked into them just from turning it. But that's a pretty good view of the surface quality of the extensions there. Nothing is 3D printed. You have no 3D printed lines or anything like that. So I thought I'd do the super flip pattern too, and I'll show you it in stages like this. So this is just doing it on the first layer only, which looks pretty cool. I wouldn't mind leaving it like this on display. I think it's kind of interesting. You can see there how this is 1 unit difference in height there. So that's the unit I used for plastic sheeting for extending all the pieces. So that's the smallest level I used right there. And then I just, made 2 of those and 3 of those and 4 of those and so on. And then the first 2 layers together look like this. And then here's all 3 layers doing the full 7x7 super flip, which, just like the 11x11, I think this is the coolest looking pattern out of all of them. It just has the perfect balance of being random, but also having a lot of pattern characteristics too. And then you can really see, especially over here, all the sides of the pieces there. I'll zoom up really close so you can get a better look at this. And same thing like before. Like if you take this side here and you look at it straight on, it kind of disguises itself as being flat. I mean, obviously here you can tell that these are much taller because of the perspective. But then when you shift it like that, isn't that cool? Let's see that on the other side. Like this one here. It's kind of a cool illusion. And then same thing as always, I'll just end with a full scramble of this thing. That's the really great thing about these Shengshao mechanisms, is even when you have everything completely out of alignment like this, it just takes a little bit of, getting it close, like that, and then everything moves on the next axis. So obviously you would never turn it this sloppily when you're solving it. It's just kind of a good test of that. So, you just kind of grab onto some of the edges, get it relatively close, and then the next side turns. So turning is just fantastic on this. Definitely the best turning puzzle I've made so far. So here's a full scramble of this thing now, which just looks really cool. And to show you some of the turning again, you can easily, multiple layers you can turn with one finger, even if you just kind of sloppily, turn half of them at once. It's just really, really smooth, no catching at all. And actually it turns much better than your standard Shengshao 8x8, because this kind of, as a lot of people know, it has kind of a semi-clicky mechanism, just a little catchy if it's not broken in. This one is extremely broken in. I've had this thing for probably, 4 years, so this is about as broken in as it can possibly be. But when I got it, I think, if you turn these 3 outer layers, try this if you have one, kind of squeeze it together like this, apply a little pressure like that, and you can feel how there's some sort of, I don't know what it is, some sort of factory release flashing from the mold injection that just creates a little bit of catchiness. It's mostly been, just by turning it, sanded down on this. But on a puzzle like this, where I've individually sanded smooth every single piece on the inner flat sides of it, it gets rid of all that instantly. So, basically modding a puzzle like this is probably equivalent to breaking in a normal puzzle for like 5 or 6 years, just because you're actually taking the time to individually sand and smooth every single inner piece. So I'll do another close-up of this. So if anybody's interested in ordering one of these puzzles from me, or any of my other puzzles, feel free to contact me through my Facebook page. The link's in the description down there. And as always, thanks for watching.